Capcom is finally addressing our feedback, and they are adding a ton of changes to Monster Hunter Wilds. Not only are we getting a ton of content with Title Update 1, but we're also going to be getting a series of buffs, nerfs, performance fixes, quality of life changes, and so much more. And they even go on to mention that they are going to be banning some players due to some quote-unquote illegal activity, so we're going to be talking about all of that in today's video. So with that being said, hello everyone, my name is Dark Hero, and let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is the director's letter that has been written by Tokura-san, where he goes on to celebrate Monster Hunter Wilds having sold over 10 million copies, being a huge success for Capcom and breaking tons of records. The game is very well on its trajectory to becoming the most successful title for Capcom ever, as it is already ranked in the top 5 best-selling Capcom game, and the game has been out for a month. That said, Monster Hunter Wilds, despite how much I love him and many other players love it as well, does have a lot of problems. A lot of features that were missing from the game that should have been there at the release, as well as many other issues that players have been talking about, and it looks like Capcom is addressing all of this feedback. So let's dive deep into that. So one of the biggest criticisms of Monster Hunter Wilds is the game's difficulty, or rather the lack thereof, and that is one of the big things that has been addressed by Capcom in this director's letter. So we talked about in previous videos how Tempered Arkfeld is currently the only 8-star quest in the game, while Tokura-san has thankfully confirmed that they will be adding the tempered versions of the 4 Apex monsters, so Raidao, Uthuna, New Udra, and Jindahad, as well as Gormagala, to the list of the 8-star monster quests, making them far stronger, dealing more damage, having more health, and being more resilient to wounds. Despite being a really cool feature in Wilds that is a big part of the game's combat, wounds are a big part of the reason as to why the hunts feel so easy. You can apply those wounds really quickly and then keep the monster permanently flinching as you destroy said wounds, and with some weapons focus strikes you can even keep the monster animation locked for a few seconds, which is inevitably going to make the fight even easier. So I'm very curious to see how these tougher fights will go, and of course we cannot forget about the arch-tempered monsters that we're going to be getting in the future as title updates will be rolling out, but at least it's good to see that the lack of difficulty is being addressed in this way. Though it is interesting that they are not planning on touching any other monster besides these ones, so your first playthrough experience for any newcomers in the future would likely still be the same as the ones we had, which I would argue I think all of the monsters in the game deserve to have a little bit more health. Now moving on to another big topic, buffs and nerfs, with one weapon in particular being specifically mentioned, and that is the hammer that is being considered for buffs. So that is pretty much a confirmation that the hammer is going to be buffed, and seeing as the hammer hasn't been performing too well, it really is the underdog of Wilds along with the bowguns that just feel awful to play in my opinion, so I would like to see them adjusted in some way to make them more fun as well. I think the hammer is a lot of fun as it is, but it just doesn't deal enough damage or get as many KOs as it should, so hopefully it ends in a good spot after being buffed. They also mentioned potentially adjusting some unintentionally overpowered things, so I am curious to see what that's gonna entail. Are we going to see a nerf to Perfect Guard? It certainly makes things a lot easier, and the timing is incredibly forgiving. As someone that has been using the Sword and Shield a lot in Wilds, I can get away with a lot because I'm able to perfect block anything. Also, will they adjust skills like Counter-Strike for example, that may not be working as intended, as it is a very powerful skill that gives you a huge benefit without any real drawback? It's all a big question, but I guess we'll have to wait to see how it all turns out. Now, still on the topic of buffs and nerfs, they did mention that the Corrupted Mental was going to be nerfed and that they would be buffing all of the other mentals. And it's pretty clear that the Corrupted Mental has become a pretty big problem, as it gives you a ton of damage as well as some additional affinity, and those additional hits that it creates on every attack you do really add up to a lot more damage, to the point where it makes all of the other mentals obsolete, so I'm happy to see that they are addressing this. The downside of having your health being drained over time is barely a factor with the mental, and I think that they should change it to where it seriously becomes a problem, so you would have to either stop what you're doing to heal, or you would need to use skills like the Guardian Arkfeld Decimator set bonus to counteract the damage that you are taking from the mental. And I also hope that they remove those secondary hits, or at least change them to the point where they apply for everything you do, as currently only some moves of the weapons get those additional hits, and it ultimately makes the optimal gameplay for some weapons be really boring, as you are just spamming the same buttons over and over again, and it's not a very engaging situation. Now, I'm very happy about this. They've also mentioned some big adjustments to quality of life as well as UI updates, and they go on to specifically mention restocking items, participating in multiplayer quests, which is a huge deal, checking skill information using the sacred and even the camera. And the camera in particular is something that bothers me when I'm playing, because whenever you use the focus mode, the camera gets even closer, and I think that by default, even when you change the settings in the game, the camera is a little bit more zoomed in than it is typically in the previous games. So with it being even more zoomed in while in focus mode, you end up losing a lot of information, and it can be a bit annoying. Now, one thing that Capcom did not address in the Title Update 1 livestream was any changes to the game's performance or improving the performance and stability of the game, but thankfully they have addressed it here in the director's letter, stating that they are trying to improve all of this, as they are aware that performance is a big issue for players. They're probably seeing some of the mods that people have been using on PC, like using the direct storage one, and doing something similar to improve the player's experience, which is always nice. You know, it's a shame the game was released in the state that it was, but it's good that we're getting these improvements. They've also mentioned that they are going to be adding a list that is coming with the end of May updates that will feature all of the endemic life that you have captured. So if you are a completionist and you like to take a look at your endemic life, it seems like you'll be able to do so, but we're not going to be having a player home, at least not this time around. And of course, a huge thing that they mentioned is that layered weapons have been confirmed to be coming in a future update. Now, there was no mention of them coming in Title Update 1 or in the end of May update, so I would assume that they are saving them for Title Update 2 in the summer, where you would maybe have some harder quests to farm to get vouchers, and then you would trade said vouchers for the layered weapons you want, kind of like we had in the previous games. Ultimately, because I play on PC, I'm able to use mods that allow me to use layered weapons, but it's something that I think everyone is looking forward to, as the best weapons in the game currently are of course the Artian weapons, and they can end up looking bland or out of place, and there's some really cool weapon designs that you're going to be missing out on if you are using the Artian weapons. If you want to read the rest of the director's letter, I'm going to be leaving a link to it below the like button so you can check it out for yourself, where Tokuda-san goes on to thank the players for all of their feedback, and that he is very happy with the reception of Monster Hunter Wilds and wants to continue improving the game. But that is of course on top of everything that we're going to be getting with Title Update 1, and that is also where some of the drama might have been coming from. Now, of course, Title Update 1 is going to be launching on April 3rd or 4th, depending on where you live, and we kind of had an idea that Title Update 1 was going to be dropping very early in April, especially given that the official Capcom website where they show you the event quests had the upcoming week listed as more info coming, pretty much teasing us to the fact that we would be getting Title Update 1 around that time. And boy oh boy, what a title update this is, as we get quite a lot of features out of this one. And of course, the big highlight of the title update is the fan favorite Leviathan that is one of the 4 flagships of Monster Hunter Generations. And that is of course Mizutsune, that you'll need to be Hunter rank 21 or above in order to hunt him, which you will be doing by talking to Kanya, the lady in the Scarlet Forest that is in charge of the fishing questline. And the fact that you need to be Hunter rank 21 puts Mizutsune right among the tier 2 monsters, so that is Rathalos, Autogeron, Fulgur, Enjanath, and a few others. Now, something that was not mentioned in the livestream is the fact that the tempered version of this monster is actually an 8-star quest, of which there is currently only one of them in the entire game, and that is Tempered Arkvel. Not even Tempered Gormagala gets to be an 8-star quest, so the fact that Mizu, a traditionally mid-tier monster, gets to have an 8-star quest may indicate that the tempered version will be far stronger, and in order to take the Tempered Mizutsune quest, you'll need to be Hunter rank 41 or higher. Now, one thing to note is that at a few key moments during the presentation, we briefly see Mizutsune taking on a different appearance, having a noticeable scar that starts to glow with a distinct foxfire. That, of course, resembles the 2 Mizutsune variants, those being Soulseer from Generations Ultimate and Violet from Sunbreak. And it might just be the case that the regular Mizutsune and its tempered form in Monster Hunter Wilds will be treated as 2 different monsters, as that was the case, for example, with Ian Garuga and Scarred Ian Garuga in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Ultimately, I'm just hoping that the devs find some way to make Mizutsune an actual threat and make it somewhat challenging, as by now we're all geared up with some endgame builds, and going up against a mid-tier monster might just end with us getting sub 2-minute hunts on day 1. Now, if you've never fought Mizu before, you'll be happy to know that he has some really cool weapon designs, with the sword and shield that we can briefly see being a standout, as the sword itself is a fan and the shield a bracelet. slot. As for the armor set, it usually comes with the skill Resuscitate, which was actually beyond overpowered when Wilds first released, but more importantly, its iconic and unique skill is called Bubbly Dance, which, much like with Gormagala's set bonus, you are automatically inflicted with an ailment, which in this case is called Bubble Blight, which provides you with a huge boost to your evasion, giving you tons of extra iframes to get even more perfect dodges. Of course, another big highlight of the title update is Zoshia, the final monster of Monster Hunter Wilds, is returning, and we're going to finally be able to hunt it and even craft its weapons and armor set. It will have its own quest, but you will also be able to just spot it on the map and go after it, though you will need to be Hunter rank 50 or higher in order to hunt Zoshia. Now, something worth pointing out is that the Zoshia they list in the stream is a 5 strength monster, and the quest produces the same rewards as a tier 3 tempered monster like Arkfeld or Gormagala, as we can spot the rarity 8 Artian relic fragments on screen. And boy, let me tell you, I'm really glad that we're not getting a different tier of Artian weapons to farm this time around. I hope that if they do it, they save it for the final update of the base game, because truth be told, I don't want to deal with Artian weapons for much longer. Now, speaking of weapons, we finally get to see the Zoshia weapons and armor sets, and they look phenomenal. All of the weapon designs have been fantastic in Wilds, but I have to say that these are some big standouts. I love how the armor changes when you unsheath the weapons, just like the Safi'jiiva armor from Iceborne, and just like Zoshia, the armor has this cool devil and angel motif that has been illustrated really well here, with its unique animations and effects, and I really like the small detail of the male hunter's armor having these 2 extra arms that are basically strangling the hunter. Very disturbing stuff, I love it. Now, of course, it was a huge disappointment when the game first released that we never got Hunt Zoshia again. You could only hunt it once in the story, and if you had to repeat it, you had to essentially just join through an SOS quest, so it's cool that they are bringing it back, and hopefully it comes with a surprise like a big powerful new attack, though given that most players have only hunted it once, they probably are not going to be doing any big changes because people just wouldn't spot them. And the fight itself is a huge spectacle, so to be honest, I don't mind even if they don't add anything to it. Of course, there's all these special motives around the fight, having a lot of elements from previous Elder Dragons like Alatrion, Fatalis, and even Geismagorm, so I hope that they address some of the lore here, or do something with Zoshia in the future, because there's a lot of big implications with this monster. And I'm very curious to see how the Zoshia weapons and armor will turn out. Will they become the new meta and dethrone the Artian weapons? I'm hoping that they have some unique mechanics, kind of like Frostcraft, or again the Safi'jiiva weapons, or like a lot of the other weapons in Sunbreak that are very unique and creative. I'm really hoping that's the case and that they just don't give you more attack and crit and call it a day. Another big highlight for the title update is none other than Arch-Tempered Raidao, a far stronger version of Raidao that pretty much indicates that we will be getting the Arch-Tempered version of all of the Apex monsters in the game, so we can look forward to more challenging content. Now, Arch-Tempered Raidao will only be launching on April 30th and will require you to be Hunter rank 50 or higher. And much like it was the case in Monster Hunter World, these Arch-Tempered monsters will be giving you a special Gamma armor set for you to craft. And this one will likely revolve around latent power, given that that is what the Raidao armor set already focuses on, but we can also expect it to have a far stronger set bonus and also better decoration slots. Now, I am still a little bit concerned that these Arch-Tempered monsters may not be too difficult, as for the brief moments they showcase Arch-Tempered Raidao, we saw a hunter wearing the full Mizutsune armor set that is weak to thunder, and he got hit with a couple of very powerful thunder blasts in the face and still ended up surviving in the end. But maybe I'm digging too much into this and it doesn't mean anything, they were just using God mode for the footage, but I really hope that these monsters are going to provide us with some big challenges. If you weren't around for this back in Monster Hunter World, they actually took some time to finally deploy the Arch-Tempered monsters in the game. I believe they only appeared after Title Update 2, though I might be wrong on this, and honestly some of them were a menace, with Arch-Tempered Nergigante and Kirin being 2 standouts, as they were able to one-shot you if you weren't prepared, and Arch-Tempered Valhazak had a unique gimmick to the fight that made it a lot more interesting. So hopefully Capcom goes with the same direction and gives us even more things for the Arch-Tempered monsters, and doesn't just increase their health and the damage that they deal, but also add them some cool and unique movesets and interactions. And of course, another big feature of Title Update 1 is the Gathering Hub, which is returning, this time around being called the Grand Hub, and you will need to be Hunter rank 16 in order to go there first. And this Gathering Hub looks fantastic. Not only do you get the Diva singing that is returning from Monster Hunter Dozen for Ultimate, that is going to help sell the immersion of the entire place, but you also get the Wyverian Smithy as another returning character, the one that you see briefly next to Gemma. We also get a few minigames, like for example arm wrestling makes a return, and we get this barrel bowling minigame that you are apparently going to be doing to get some daily items, so it's not going to be something that you can do all of the time, but it looks to be a cool addition. Another cool thing about the Gathering Hub is that Canteen is back. We're going to be getting our food served by the Palicos, though it looks like it's going to be a Uber Eats type of service where the Palicos are going to be getting the meals from the different villages, but hey, this is much better than cooking the meal yourself in my opinion. Now there was a big empty space that people were able to spot using FreeCam in the game, not far from the Hollow Grounds area, and a lot of people were speculating that that would be used for the Gathering Hub, and it looks like that turned out to be true. I know Wild's launching without a Gathering Hub, and the fact that we are only now getting one with the Title Update 1 has made many players upset. Me personally, I play Monster Hunter mostly solo unless there's some quests with forced multiplayer scaling or some siege quests, though I have partaken in a little bit of co-op crown hunting, but for the most part I don't really care too much about multiplayer, so it doesn't really change too much for me personally, but I like what they have done with the Grand Hub, and it has the potential to be the best Gathering Hub that we have ever had. It really reminds me of the Plaza from Monster Hunter Frontier if any of you guys have played it, and I just like the cozy vibes that it has going for it. And of course we're going to be getting festivals as well, which will not only redecorate the entirety of the Grand Hub, but we're also going to be getting some new layered cosmetics as part of that festival. And of course, as with every festival, all of the event quests that have been available in the past will become available for you to do once again, so if you missed out on any event quest, you'll have the chance to do it. They also mentioned that we're going to be getting new event quests for farming decorations and raising your hunter rank quickly. I don't expect them to be better than the methods that we already have in the game, but that might just be the case, and if that is the case, I'll make a guide on some of the best farming methods, because I know some of you are still missing some decorations that you want for your builds. Arena is also making a return with Title Update 1. I felt it was very strange that we didn't have any arena quests, and it looks like Capcom is actually putting a lot of effort into the arenas this time around. So we're going to be getting these free quests where you can pretty much go in with your friends, tackle the quests and have fun, but more importantly, we're going to be getting the challenge quests where you actually need to take a specific loadout that the game has prepared for you with a small selection of weapons, so you cannot customize your build on those quests, and depending on how well you perform, depending on how quickly you finish the quest, you're going to end up with different rewards. There's also going to be a special leaderboard that, again, depending on how high you're able to climb the leaderboard, you're going to be getting even more rewards. Now, of course, the issue here with these arena quests is that they have been filled with cheaters in the previous games to the point where nobody really takes these seriously. However, it seems that Capcom themselves are taking this issue seriously. They have a whole dedicated post on their website that I'll be showing you here, talking about how if you cheat in the arena, you're going to be breaking their terms of service, and any account that is deemed by Capcom to have committed what they call a prohibited action will be suspended or have limits on many features of the game. So you might be getting banned if you cheat in the arena, which I think is a good thing. I'm just waiting to see how that actually turns out. You know, maybe Capcom is actually finally putting their anti-cheat to good use. Regardless of that, it should still be very easy for you to get a decent time in the arena and still get the best rewards out of it. These are typically very easy to accomplish, and unless you are someone that doesn't really know how to play your weapon, you should have an easy time getting these rewards. And of course, one of the biggest things about the livestream was the reveal of none other than Lagiacrus, the flagship monster of Monster Hunter Tribe, possibly the most anticipated monster in the entire series, as the last time we saw him was in Generations Ultimate, and he was actually supposed to be in Monster Hunter World. There was this whole demonstration of an early build of the game where Lagiacrus was actually involved in a turf war in the ancient forest against Anjanath, but it was ultimately scrapped because I believe they couldn't quite get the technology to get him working. But fans have been asking for Lagiacrus ever since, and we are finally getting him in Title Update 2, which is going to be released in the summer. Very excited about all of this content. Again, I know a lot of features here are things that players expected to already be present in the game at release, and many of these other features are also things that people have been asking for a long long time, so it's great to see that Capcom is addressing all of this. They are listening to our feedback, not just with the content that is on Title Update 1, but also all of the additional changes that are going to be coming, including the nerfs, the buffs, and everything else. So let me know how you guys feel about all of this. Are you excited for the new content coming into Monster Hunter Wilds? What else would you like to see addressed other than the difficulty, the buffs, and the nerfs? And if you have enjoyed this video, then please subscribe to the channel, as it really helps me out. And with that being said, my name is Dark Hero. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, happy hunting!